discuss the Andriy Yarmolenko situation. I'd like to do it as sort of honestly as possible and taking both things into account. And I say both things, probably all three things. And that is, firstly, his position within the squad has changed, I think, because of his two recent goals. I think to take into consideration also the situation he's in because of what's happening in Ukraine, the fact he's had to go and rescue his family, and also take into consideration that really, as a sign-in, considering the money that we paid for him and the wages, it ain't worked out. And to marry those three things together are not particularly easy, because I actually think without, and if I'm brutally honest here, I think without the recent couple of goals, and I think without the situation that he finds himself in because of the invasion of Ukraine, if we weren't considering those two aspects, I think we'd just be saying, well, his contract's running out, it's not really worked out, he's off. I've got to be honest with you, after he took a dive against Kidderminster, I wasn't happy with him at all. That being said, it sort of probably pales into insignificance now, considering what's actually happened to him and happened to his family. There was a story that escaped me a little bit with all this Yarmolenko stuff. Now, as you may well know, his family were in the Ukraine, and like many of those Ukrainians, they were told to get to the border. That much I knew. We spoke about it on this channel. Yarmolenko flew over to Ukraine, to Poland, to go to the border to collect his family. That's as much of the story as I knew. I didn't know the extra part of the story, which was Lukas Fabianski had arranged for his family and for his friends to actually meet Yarmolenko's, I think it was his wife and his daughter, at the border and basically look after them. And I thought, wow, that's really something very, very special. If that's going to, stuff like that is really going to create a massive bond between two people and a camaraderie and stuff like that, I think was a wonderful story. It's magnificent for team spirit. And also, I think it probably plays into what has to be a consideration with Yarmolenko and the situation we find himself in now. Because what we're really in is a sort of humanitarian situation. Yarmolenko is, as far as I know, is in the UK on a work visa. So actually the normal thing of letting his contract run out, I don't think applies in this one. Now, I understand there's probably special dispensation for Ukrainians, and particularly if you've already been residing over here, which obviously he does. I'm pretty sure there will be a number of things that you could do to help him stay in this country. However, a work visa is predicated upon the fact that you've got to be working. And here's where it becomes, I think, a little bit interesting. Take those things out of the equation just based on football, based on, what do we pay from 17 million from Borussia Dortmund? We basically bought an injury-prone player, and he's been injured most of the time. He's had a couple of great moments. Very recently, we think of a couple. Look at the Chelsea, the breakaway goal against Chelsea, which was really, really good for us, wasn't it? And was probably the highlight, I feel, of Yarmolenko's West Ham career. Put those aside, he ain't getting a new deal. We wouldn't keep him on. We just wouldn't, because it's not worked out. However, I feel the implication of that is we release him. He then doesn't have a contract of employment. If he doesn't have a contract of employment, he then won't have a work visa. And I think there's probably something to be done here. As I understand it, he was going to run down his contract. He'd had a couple of offers, but I think he wanted to go and rejoin Dynamo Kiev. Clearly, for all the reasons that everybody knows about, that's just not an option anymore. He can't go back to the country. Certainly don't expect Dynamo Kiev to be playing football anytime soon. So that's his chosen option. What he was planning on doing is not an avenue that's open to him. So here's the thing. If we again separate the football from the emotion of it, is what Yarmolenko's offering, does that play a part in David Moyes' rebuilding the West Ham team? No, actually, he's one of the players that you'd think we would have to get rid of. That being said, we know that he's not a problem player in the squad. It's not like he's a disruptive influence. Far from it. As I say, look at that situation that you have with Lucas Fabianski there. Look at the way the players have rallied round him. It's not somebody that complains when he's not in the team, so he's not disruptive at all. So I think what I'd probably be looking to do with Yarmolenko is, first of all, make sure that there's a safeguarding issue here, which is clearly we can't have a situation where he's extradited from the country. I don't think he would be, by the way. I really don't. I think, as I say, there's probably provision for people fleeing a war zone to stay here. I think that's probably in place. That being said, probably the easiest way to make sure that doesn't happen is to retain his employment. You see, obviously, where I'm going with this. I think, well, ultimately the decision is going to be Yarmolenko's, but I think as a club it'd probably be the right thing to do to offer him something. Now, I understand what we don't want to do is offer him the same sort of wages he was on in some long-term contract. However, there's probably a compromise here until things get sorted and he can go back to do what he wants to do. Now, don't get me wrong, if there is a club in Europe that are willing to give him a work visa and they're going to go and offer him first team football and the family are happy to move abroad, then fine. But bearing in mind what's happened, bearing in mind that his family have already fled one war zone, if you like, and they have a home over here, they might not want to move. They might actually think, well, you know, Britain is well, he's been very, very complimentary about the country and about Britain being a safe haven and how he can bring his family here, and they have a home here. They may not want to move. They may well think, oh, this is a good place for us to be at the moment. If that's the case, he doesn't want to. I think we do have a sort of duty of care to him. That being said, I don't think we can continue to pay him whatever it is, 80 grand a week or something like that. I think the compromise is probably something like a rolling contract on a lot less money with a pay-as-you-play bonus. Listen, I'm sure he would still be really well paid. I'm sure there's a rolling contract there. I'm loath to give the fee because it's not my business to tell somebody how much wages they should accept. However, I think there's something there, and I think it just retains his employment. We put him on a rolling contract. It keeps his work visa. He stays in the country. The family. It's not just about staying safe. I'm pretty sure that wherever they would go in Europe, whether they would choose to go, they would feel safe. It's about them feeling at home. It's about them not needing any more disruption. The club sort of hinted that, look, the club are supporting Yarmolenko, you can see that, but there was sort of some suggestion, a little hint coming out last week that they wouldn't be offering him a new deal. And I absolutely get that. What we last thing we want to do is tie ourselves down to another 2-3 year contract with Yarmolenko that's going to cost the club another 15-20 million quid. That's not what I'm talking about at all. Just something to enable him to live here, to keep his family here. I just think would be the right and proper thing to do. I also think it'd be good for us as fans. I think it's good for the club. I think it'd be good for team spirit. Last thing we need is clearly a bunch of people, and I'm talking about the players here in the squad, who are his friends, and that much is clear. Listen to the story I just told you, worrying about Yarmolenko because he's had to leave. And I just think the best thing to do, I'd be interested to know what you've done on this. It just seems right that we should offer him a new deal on a temporary basis until he can get himself sorted with not a particular amount of liability to the club financially, but it keeps him safe, it keeps him happy at a time when his family probably need it. There you go.